Before the success stories, the progress, there was you. You who made a choice to grow, to inspire, to overcome your own challenges. At NASM, we're in service of your limitless potential because when you keep growing, we all get stronger. And we'll never stop making your journey our mission. Join the fitness leader. Become a fitness leader. Become a certified personal trainer.
You're listening to the NASM-CPT Podcast with Richey, winner of the Share Care Emmy Award for Social Storytelling and the official podcast of the National Academy of Sports Medicine.
Hey, y'all, and welcome to the NASM-CPT Podcast. My name is Richey, and I just returned from a 2-week vacation in Italy with my family. It was amazing, and I know that you're like, hey, I just listened to your episode last week. That's because I recorded them in advance because I knew I was going on this vacation. And it's something we've been planning for a long time. I've never been. Wife has never been, obviously. And then my kids have never been. And so we went. And we walked everywhere, tens of miles per week, sore feet, beautiful views, incredible history. But I didn't work out while I was there, and I get this a lot from my clients. Oh, I didn't work out when I was on vacation, but I walked a lot. Well, that's okay, because there are plenty of benefits from walking. Walking has great benefits. And so what I did is I went and I found a study, a singular study, that is a review of many, many studies. And it's by Ungavri et al. 2023, entitled The Multifaceted Benefits of Walking for Healthy Aging from Blue Zones to Molecular Mechanisms. And so what I really want to do is I just want to go through this study, which I thought was so all-encompassing in many ways about the benefits of walking. So let's talk about walking. And the reason I think this is important is because your clients who say, but I was walking, right? And I didn't work out, but I went for a walk. I did a lot of walking. That's okay. That's okay. Let's talk about what that means and the benefits of it. But beyond that and vacation, let's talk about it from the perspective of the health benefits. And there are plenty of health benefits from walking. In fact, it says walking decreases the risk of severity of various health outcomes, such as cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases, type 2 diabetes mellitus, cognitive impairment, and dementia, while also improving mental well-being, sleep, and longevity. All of those things sound amazing. So walking does that? It does. And there's some dose response. And in some cases, there are also pace responses. But I think it's important to point out some of the things additionally pointed out in the study. And all I'm going to do is talk about the studies that were found in this one study. So if you want this study, you want me to send it to you, you can hit me up. You can DM me on Instagram at dr.rickrichy, or you can email me, rick.richey@nasm.org, and I will send you the link, PubMed link for this particular study, which goes and kind of evaluates all of these other studies. It says, researchers have identified 5 blue zones around the world, including Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy. Nicoya, Costa Rica, Icaria, what are we looking at? In Greece. And then this was interesting. I didn't realize this, and I had heard it before. But it talks about the 7-day and Adventist community in Loma Linda, California. And these regions have the highest concentration of centenarians, people who have lived beyond 100 years. And the lifestyles of the people living in these regions have been studied to determine the factors contributing to their longevity and healthy aging. Research has identified several factors that contribute to this phenomenon, and some of them include diet, some are social connectedness, and of course, physical activity. Now, one of the key lifestyle characteristics of the blue zone populations is their high levels of physical activity, which includes regular walking, in addition to other things like physical activity when it comes to walking, but also daily errands, gardening, and performing manual labor activities. Therefore, health promotion programs designed to promote healthy aging should prominently include recommendations for walking, in addition to other forms of regular physical activity as a way to improve overall health and well-being. And then it gets specific. Like what parts of you does it benefit? And it goes down a list of multiple things. And the first one it starts off is cardiovascular risk. And this is going to be a little kind of research heavy, but let's get into it. Cardiovascular risk, a meta-analysis conducted by Kelly and colleagues evaluated the effects of walking, showed that walking exercise programs led to a mean reduction in systolic blood pressure and diastolic blood pressure of 3 and 2 millimeters of mercury, respectively. All right, well, that's good. Let's get some of and that's just from walking, Murphy and colleagues pulled data of 24 randomized controlled trials to quantify the effect of walking interventions on selected risk factors, including aerobic fitness, blood pressure, and measures of body composition. The study showed that walking interventions increased aerobic fitness and decreased body weight and body mass index, body fat percentage, and resting diastolic blood pressure in sedentary adults. Walking, how amazing. Other meta-analyses show that walking significantly decreases glycated hemoglobin, or that's also known as your A1C, your body mass index, and your diastolic blood pressure. It increases VO2 max while having no effect on high-density lipoproteins, cholesterols, low-density lipoprotein cholesterol levels. But overall, these findings suggest that walking is associated with significant improvements in cardiovascular risk factors, and also has the potential to be used as a therapeutic tool for individuals with type 2 diabetes. Regular exercise, including walking, has a profound impact on endothelial function, which plays a critical role in cardiovascular health. Now, I've talked about endothelial function before, and endothelial function, those are the cells in the body that line your blood vessel. The endothelial cells line the blood vessels. And this is really where type 2 diabetes is terrible, because it attacks the endothelial cells, and the endothelial cells wrap around blood vessels, and everything in your body that needs blood has the blood vessel to it. So the smaller blood vessels get hurt first, which is why we see issues with kidneys and eyes and nerves, because nerves need blood to service them as well. So walking can benefit that. It can benefit the endothelial function. Now, let's get into some specifics with heart outside of cardiovascular, and then we'll get back to type 2 diabetes, which is an endothelial function, which ends up ultimately being a cardiovascular function. So hypertension compared to a walk of 10 minutes or less, or 11 minutes to 20-minute walk, and a 21-minute or more, there was associated with a 29% lower risk, 12 and 29% lower risk of hypertension, respectively. There's a study of 15,357 university graduates, initially free of chronic disease or hypertension, and they found that a normal, brisk, and a very brisk walking pace was associated with a reduced risk of hypertension compared to slow walking paces after adjusting for established risk factors. Here's more. A recent prospective analyst of 83,435 postmenopausal women ages 50 to 79 without known hypertension, heart failure, coronary heart disease, stroke. They found that walking at a guideline recommended volume and faster speeds was associated with a lower risk of hypertension. And we're going to keep going with this, because we're going to go through cardiovascular, and then we're going to get into more stuff. Cardiovascular and cerebrovascular diseases. In 2008, we've got Hammer and Chida, and they conducted a first systematic review and meta-analysis of these studies, which included 18 prospective studies of 459,833 participants free of coronary vascular disease at baseline, and then 19,249 cases in the follow-up. The authors found that comparing the highest versus the lowest walking categories was associated with a 31% reduced risk of cardiovascular disease. 31% reduced risk from doing what? Walking, regular walking. A meta-analysis by Zhang and colleagues in 2009 found increase of approximately 30 minutes of normal walking a day for 5 days a week was associated with a 19% reduction in coronary heart disease risk, with no evidence of a difference between men and women. Other studies reported dose response reductions in cardiovascular diseases with higher walking duration, distance, energy expenditure, and pace. So when we look at that, we start changing how far you walk, the pace of walking, things like that. And so additionally, it points out that a brisk or fast-paced walk was associated with a 24% and a 21% reduced risk of cardiovascular mortality, respectively, compared to walking at a slow pace. All right. Let's see. What else? Let's go to this next one, cognitive function. So we've got a study here with cognitive function. So we've gone through cardiovascular disease, heart disease. Let's look at cognitive function. It says some studies have reported decreased dementia risk with higher physical activities, but there were a lot where other studies didn't find any such association. In fact, a meta-analysis of 17 prospective cohort studies evaluating the association of walking pace with the risk of cognitive decline and dementia among elderly populations found that comparing the lowest and the highest category of walking pace was associated with an increased risk of cognitive decline and dementia. Otherwise, other studies have pointed out dose response association of daily step count and intensity with incidence of all-cause dementia among adults. It found that approximately 9,800 steps per day may be optimal to reduce the risk of dementia. A minimum dose of 3,800 steps per day was associated with a 25% lower risk of a dementia, in addition to steps performed at higher intensity, which resulted stronger associations. So there are, like many things, there are things that you look at and you do meta-analysis. And that's why I think meta-analysis are good, because some studies show, maybe not so much, and other studies show a correlation. And then you do statistical analysis of those two studies, and then you say, okay, well, what if we put all of these together? What does that mean in the end? And so that's our goal, is try to identify, well, what does it actually mean when we put everything together? And that's why meta-analysis are so valuable. All right, let's talk about type 2 diabetes and walking. And a 2000 meta-analysis of 10 prospective studies that investigated the association between moderate intensity physical activity and the risk of type 2 diabetes. The pooled analysis of 5 studies that specifically evaluated the role of walking showed that regular walking was associated with a 30% reduction risk in type 2 diabetes compared with the almost no walking group. Well, 2007 is a long time ago, but let's look at this one by Balin and colleagues from 2020. It examined the association between daily step count assessed with an accelerometer with greater than 100 counts per minute, an incident of diabetes in 3,500 community dwelling 70-year-olds. Participants took greater than 4,500 steps per day, had a 59% lower risk of diabetes compared with those that took fewer than 4,500 steps per day. The dose response analysis indicated a steep decline in risk of diabetes until around 6,000 steps per day, where the risk of decreasing kind of leveled out. All right. We also have another one from kind of recent results from the population-based perspective cohort Hispanic community study of Latinos, which indicated that 6,634 adults demonstrated the accumulating of more daily steps, including walking or brisk walking, and greater step intensity are associated with reduced risk of diabetes. So not just more steps, but again, more steps at faster speeds, but increasing your speeds can be very beneficial for a lot of these different mortality and morbidities. Speed and mortality, all-cause mortality. All-cause mortality just means the death due to any cause. And it says that the highest versus the lowest walking category is associated with a 32% reduced risk of mortality. Walking pace being a strong independent predictor compared to walking volume. So again, walking faster versus walking more or walking for greater distances. High volume walking or intensity is associated with the strongest risk reduction. So pick up the speed a little bit. Sematicus and colleagues found that walking an average, looking at brisk and fast-paced, associated with a 20 to 24 reduced risk of all-cause mortality, respectively, compared to walking at slow paces. The UK Biobank cohort, they found that men and women with a brisk walking pace had a 21% and a 27% reduced risk of all-cause mortality, respectively, compared to the slow pace. So again, we're talking about picking up the pace, not just getting your steps in, but to be purposeful with picking up the speed. So those steps can be seen as the exercise steps. A study of 17,466 women found approximately 4,400 steps per day were associated with a 41% reduction in mortality rate compared with approximately 2,700 steps per day, with a steady decline in mortality rates up to approximately 7,500 steps per day, which beyond that, they leveled out. So you see the benefit going up from 4,400 steps per day, and that's a 41% reduction in mortality rate compared to the 2,700 steps per day, getting all the way up to 7,500 steps per day. We see benefit, and then it levels out. So you don't necessarily need to get more than the 7,500 steps per day. It starts to level out. It's still a slight increase. It's a slight grade elevation, but mostly it levels out. Well, let's talk about another one. Let's talk about cancer. And I wish I had better news for you on this one, but however, the studies show that there is little association with walking and cancer reduction. And man, I can want all I want. But that one, I just feel like that one was a little bit more of a swing and a miss. We don't see in the research a lot of benefits from walking volume, walking pace, and how that could benefit with cancer, preventative, or any of those mechanisms. So that one was very disappointing based on these studies that they were reviewing. But we've got a lot of good stuff that it benefited so far, and there's more to come. So what about respiratory pathways? And as you can imagine, this one was definitely a benefit. Brisk walking is associated with reduced risk of respiratory disease in both men and women. Compared to slow-paced walkers, men and women with brisk walking pace had a 34% lower risk of respiratory disease. The corresponding risk reduction for chronic obstructive pulmonary disease was even greater at 65 and 72%, respectively. That's a big benefit. That's a big benefit. The numbers there are pretty spectacular. One study demonstrated that daily walking alone was sufficient to reduce pneumonia-related mortality among older people who do not engage in any other physical activity or exercise habits on a regular basis. It's huge. It's huge. What about bone health? Overall, walking may have some positive effects on bone health, but it is important to consider incorporating other types of exercise to optimize bone health outcomes. That comes directly from the paper. And some of the things they pointed out was obviously resistance training is very beneficial. And then we don't see the benefits of walking like we might see in resistance training. And I know that talking to personal trainers, y'all ain't mad about hearing that. We like resistance training a lot. But when it comes to maybe talking to our parents or our grandparents and people that we know and we love that are aging and we want them to be more physically active, they're most likely not just going to start lifting weights, but they can start walking more. And we see great benefits coming from that, including benefits with sleep. It says regular physical activity has been shown to improve sleep quality and duration, but there is ongoing debate regarding the types of physical activity that are most effective in promoting better sleep. Well, here we are talking specifically about walking. So in a longitudinal study of 103 midlife women, we've got increased activity levels during the day, and they're associated with increase in total sleep time at night, with stronger protective effects observed in overweight and obese women. So doing movement, being physically active and walking, especially for those who are overweight and obese, they got more benefits when it came to their sleep health. In a 4-week randomized controlled trial that assessed the effect of walking on sleep quality and duration, there were 59 healthy participants. They averaged about 49 years in age, observed a positive relationship between daily active minutes and sleep quality, but not in duration. So they got better quality sleep, but they didn't necessarily sleep longer. Women who were more active and took more steps also reported better sleep quality compared to those who were less active. Excuse me. And I've got one more category that I want to discuss, and we'll stop. We'll stop. We'll move on. But the last one is that they cover, and they go into more about metabolic health and things like that. But the last one from this study that I want to talk about today is mental health. So we go into this, a study that has shown that physical activity is associated with reduced risk of depression, with evidence suggesting a causal relationship. In addition to physical health benefits of walking, it has the potential to enhance emotional and psychological well-being, improve mood, and reduce the risk of various mental conditions. Excuse me. Recent research has demonstrated the effectiveness of walking in reducing symptoms of depression compared to non-walking interventions such as social support, stretching, and cognitive interventions. I'm going to do that one more time. Recent research has demonstrated the effectiveness of walking in reducing the symptoms of depression compared to non-walking interventions such as social support, stretching, and cognitive interventions. That's a pretty powerful statement about walking. And in one more study, it talks about brisk walking was found to improve mood state, and walking has also been shown to boost creative inspiration. People's creative output increased by an average of 60% while walking compared to sitting. All right. Well, with that being said, you can stick a fork in me. I am done on this topic today. I know that was a lot of research, a lot of content, and some of it can be a little tricky just to maintain and listen to. And for those of you who made it to the end of this episode, I want to say grazie. Grazie mille. Learned some Italian. All right. So, thanks for being here. You get a chance, go and like, subscribe, share with your fitness friends and family. Leave a 5-star review and a comment if you are so inclined. It is greatly appreciated. Also, if you want to connect with me and you want a link to this study about walking, then hit me up. You can find me on Instagram at dr.rickrichey or email me rick.richey@nasm.org. Y'all keep inspiring people to fitness. Thanks for listening. This has been the NASM-CPT Podcast.